إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدًا عبده ورسوله يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. O you who have believed, fear Allah as He should be feared, and do not die except as Muslims in submission to Him. Amma ba'd. We as Muslims are known for many good things. In today's world, we're known for many good things. We are a demographic that is the most charitable. This is undeniable. We are people of fasting. We are people of salah. We are people who are good to their parents. These are all positive things that the world has accepted of us. Historically, however, we pale in comparison. Historically, Muslims were known for high virtues, high mannerisms, being chivalrous. People used to send their princesses to Muslim lands to learn their education and then bring them back to their lands where they come from. This is how much trust they had with the Muslims, and this is how much reverence they had for the Muslims. And this is all because of the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We embodied that at that time. But today, we're not known for such high values. Today, we are known for what we are known for, but we can do better. We are not known to have sabr. We have sabr, but we're not known for it. We're not known for gratitude. We're not known for all these high virtues. And it is because we don't follow the sunnah, or we don't put that emphasis on following the sunnah completely. And because of our lack of exercise of the sunnah, it is very easy for those who have ill intention towards us to make up things about us, to make up things in the media, because we're not really presenting ourselves in that high level. Of course, we're playing the game on a difficult level, but we have to take some blame for ourselves. It's not just the media, it's also ourselves. We have to think about that. So, one of the things that we have to focus on is the interactions between us and the creation of Allah. This is important because by our actions towards the creation of Allah, we also get closer to Allah Himself. So then how do we behave towards the creation of Allah? With adab, and not just adab, the prophetic adab. So if somebody were to ask you what is adab mean, translated into English, you would probably get good manners. But the problem with the term good manners in English is that it's not actually comprehensive for what adab truly means. Because you could have good manners, and you could be a very arrogant person at the same time. You see what I mean? The colonists that came and destroyed the whole world just 100, 200 years ago, they were known for really high standards of good manners. But they are also recorded to have one of the worst atrocities in the history of mankind. So this is not what we're talking about. We're not talking about decorum. We're talking about something deeper than this. And I think the better way of understanding adab is by putting things in its proper place, in its proper time. This is more conclusive of what adab means in English. So, with this in mind, it's not actually easy to practice adab. It really isn't. If you think about it, it's something that requires a lot of practice. It's something that requires a lot of effort and scheduling and all of these things. Because it's not something that you just learn and implement right away, because it is changing how you behave day to day. And it's not easy to just learn it from a book and then practice it right away. Imagine how many, you're going to read a book, how many articles of adab are you going to read and then implement all of it in one go? It's very, very difficult. And that's why it's easier to teach children adab, because it's fresh for them, everything is new, and you can implement that to them. But it's much more difficult when you're an adult, because we have to rewire ourselves to behave in accordance to the Prophet, the way the Prophet ﷺ behaved. But it's not impossible. We have to have that intention to break those bad habits, and we will be able to do it if we make dua to Allah and we have a good intention. So what's an easier way of actually honing this adab within ourselves? It's actually about suhbah, about good companionship, about living and seeing good adab in action. Not just reading about it or hearing about it or wishing to behave in such a way. You have to actually put yourself in a circle where people actually behave in this excellent manner so that you can absorb from them. Because when you have people who don't have good adab, or people who have maybe bad manners, like maybe swearing, or they backbite a lot, or they don't have integrity, or they have bad qualities, what happens is that we absorb from that circle, if that's our circle. Do you see? If you make yourself a fruit, let's say an apple, you can never, you'll rot with all the rotten apples if you're put in that basket. You will never make them fresh like yourself. It will always have a negative effect on you. And that's why you have to surround yourself with good people who do practice good adab with their parents, with their colleagues. They are people who are glowing people, so that you can also embody that as well. It's something that will be easier because you're living it instead of just reading about it. And this idea of having suhbah is actually is the formula for success at the heart of Islam. It's at the heart of Islam, but it's something that maybe we look over too much. So I'll mention one adab, and that should be easy to practice. One aspect of it, and it's our world famous salutation. It's our world famous greeting, Assalamu alaikum. Imam Haddad says regarding salutations in his book, the Book of Assistance, greet with salam all Muslims, whether you know them or not. If you greet someone and he does not return the greeting, don't think ill of him, but rather say to yourself, he may not have heard, or perhaps he answered and I did not hear. So there's two aspects of this passage that he writes here. Number one, greet everyone, all Muslims, with salam, whether you know them or you don't. We live in a time where us Muslims are stingy with salam. We only say salam to the people we know. I'm definitely a culprit of this. It's something I need to work on, and I feel that I can share this with you as well. We're very stingy with it. It's very easy for us to swim past 20 Muslims in a Muslim gathering to say salam to one person. And we pass all the Muslims around us, and we don't give them any salam. This is not prophetic adab. We have text messages now, and we're even lazy with that. You know, it has autofill. It'll just say the whole thing. You don't have to type anything, and you get the full reward for it. And something that I actually found out, and it's kind of scary, is that a sign of the end of times is when people reserve their salam for people they know, and they don't say salam to all the Muslims. So it is scary to think about, but it's something that we can work on. It's a very easy thing, because it is the first thing when we interact with anyone is salam. Is before anything else, before you go into the hospitality, going into how you, how all the different aspects of how you interact with somebody, is the first thing is greeting. So let's think about that. The other aspect of that passage is that if you don't receive the salam, you should think two things. Either you didn't hear it, or he didn't hear you, which means you're practicing husnul dhan, or good opinion of the other person. Now, why do we practice husnul dhan? Is because it is like a guard for your heart so that we don't have resentment, unjustified anger, or hatred of the other person. It's a guard. It protects you from all these ills of the heart, so that you can go by your day clean. Now, if you think about it, imagine if all Muslims had husnul dhan for other Muslims. What would happen? The Muslims who are far from Allah will find an easy way to come back to Islam, because they won't feel judged. And people feel judged all the time, whether it's justified or not, because of how we look at them, how our body language, how we speak. These are all things that we need to fix within ourselves. We shouldn't be judgmental people, all right? If we do this, the people will flock back in droves, because that is one of the seals that keep them back. I don't want to be judged. These people are looking at me. I have a bad history. This doesn't matter. Husnul dhan. We have to have a good opinion of all our Muslims, because we're all on the same path to Allah at the end of the day, and we want all the Muslims to go back to Allah in Jannatul Firdaus. There's a story I would tell. I don't know if it's a true story, but I've heard it many times. There's two men washing their hands at a river, one on opposite sides. They're kind of far away, so they can barely see each other's figures, but they know that there's two people. This is in the dead of night, around the last third of the night. And one man said to himself about the other, "Wow, mashallah, he is making wudu to pray tahajjud like me." And the other man, he looked at him and he said, "Oh, he probably killed somebody too." So you see, the mentality is in yourself when you think bad of somebody else. It's crucial that we clean our own hearts and that we always have good opinions of other Muslims. So now what I've mentioned in this interaction of somebody is two things. First, you've given the peace, you've established peace between your brother, and you've established good opinion between your brother. These are two things that you've established within 1 second of a meeting. Husnul dhan and salam. And this is nothing. This is just a fraction of everything that we have to do in terms of interaction with the creation. So we live in a globalization of bad behavior. In the media, it's just bad. The fahsha, you see it everywhere. People are, it's like trendy to be rebellious against authority. It's you can think of all the ills, the social ills that we have. We don't have to describe them all, but it's there and it's popular, and it's become like weird or unfashionable to have good adab. In fact, maybe you could even say that it's hard to even spot good adab, because we're so clouded with so much negativity that when we see somebody who actually has good adab, we don't recognize it anymore, and that's actually very scary. Imagine nowadays we have kids, daughters and sons, who feel comfortable to be rude to their parents in public. What that means, if they're comfortable to do it in public, is that they don't even see it as wrong. Because you won't do anything wrong in public, because you'll be afraid of the public eye. But if you can yell at your parents and do things like that, there's a problem here. There's layers of issues where the adab of how to behave with parents doesn't even exist within society at large. Now, going back to the salam example, to show how important the greeting is. At the end of Meccan oppression, when the Muslims finally escaped and they established their own liberated town, Medina, the Prophet ﷺ asked first, before anything else, the Prophet ﷺ said, "O you people, spread peace, spread salam, feed others, and perform salah while the people are asleep, and you will enter into paradise with salam." Which means what? The salam is so crucial. That's the first thing. That's the first thing in Medina the Prophet ﷺ asked us to do, is to greet people properly. And this isn't just here. It's not just speaking, it's actions and thoughts. that go along with the salam. And goes back before even the Prophet ﷺ. This is the most ancient thing in human history. Adam alayhi salam, when Allah created him, the first thing He told him to do was to say salam to the angels. When He told them to say salam to the angels, He said, hear their response, and this will be the greeting for all of your progeny to the end of time. This is the first thing for humans, not just as Muslims, for humankind and all together. Adam went to the angels and said, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. And the angels responded, Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And this is all about putting things at its proper place and time. When you enter a house, you greet your family with salam. When you enter a masjid or an empty house, you say, Assalamu alayna wa ala ibadillahi salihin. Peace be upon us and the virtuous servants of Allah. Because there's other things that we can't see in our houses. When you meet a Muslim, always try to greet him before he greets you. The Messenger of Allah ﷺ was once asked, when a Muslim meets a Muslim, who should give the greetings first? And his reply was, the one who is most devoted to Allah. This shows the importance of the greeting, because the greeting opens up everything else for the interaction. And there's many other rules about, going to the grave and saying salam to the Prophet ﷺ. There's many areas of putting its place where it should be, putting its things in where it belongs. So this is the refined way of living. This is how you put things where it belongs. None of you will believe until you love for your brother what you love for yourself. So then give the person salam, ask for salam for the person. Don't you want salam for yourself? Don't you want tranquility for yourself? Don't you want a life where there's no evil or harm for yourself? So say salam to people. If this is something that you want and you truly want for your brother what you want for yourself, give the salam to people. We must train our nafs to oppose our nafs and train our heart to wish for everything that you want for yourself for others, and to detest whatever you detest for yourself for others. You cannot tread this path of Islam by yourself. Why are the sahaba superior to us? Why is the rank sahaba something that we will never attain? It's because of the suhbah with the Prophet ﷺ. Because they saw him, they embodied his prophetic adab, they interacted with him, they were in his circle. This is something that we don't have, and by definition we are of a lower rank. But we have something close to it. And we have the inheritors of the Prophet ﷺ. We can make suhbah with them. The righteous people, the people who are the arifin of Allah, the awliya of Allah, we can make our own suhbah with them, so that we can absorb the good adab and absorb all the goodness in them. Because this is the sunnah. This is how the sahaba did it, and this is how we should do it. And it doesn't end with us. It continues all the way to the end of time. The deen teaches us that the company of the righteous people, being there for each other, supporting each other, is at the core of sunnah. And that's why we have Jum'ah. That's why Allah put so much emphasis on the jama'ah. That's why there's so much barakah on the jama'ah. There's more rewards for the jama'ah. This is not a deen of selfishness. So I'll conclude with one thing. The Muslims are to one another like one big building. It takes all of us to keep the ummah up brick by brick. We need all the bricks together. And we are like one body. And when one part of the body is hurt, the whole body feels it. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. May Allah allow us to benefit from what we have learned today. May Allah allow us to act upon what we have learned. May Allah beautify our akhlaq. May Allah adorn every member of the ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam with the akhlaq of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, as his character was rahmah and shifa for all humanity. May Allah give shifa for everyone who is ill and in pain. May Allah give all those who are far from Allah to come closer to Allah. And may Allah make us people who are giving, who are good to our neighbors, who are good to our parents and to our co-workers. And may Allah forgive our sins and our parents' sins and our fellow Muslim sins. We have to make a special dua for Brother Ibrahim, his family. His mother passed away. He's a close member of our community. Keep her in our du'as. The whole family went to the United States to go and deal with it. So please keep them in their du'as. May Allah grant her Jannat al-Firdaus. May Allah open her grave and make it a place of light and Jannah. And may Allah give the family sabr. And also, let's give special dua for Sheikh Walid in his travels. May Allah give him safety and contentment with it wherever he goes, and may Allah put barakah in his time. Allahumma ameen. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammad kama sallayta ala Sayyidina Ibrahim wa ala ali Sayyidina Ibrahim innaka Hamidun Majid. Allahumma barik ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammad kama barakta ala Sayyidina Ibrahim wa ala ali Sayyidina Ibrahim innaka Hamidun Majid. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا وأخطأنا. ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا. ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به. واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين. أقيم الصلاة.